Okay, let's do the review on the new FUJIFILM 23mm f2WR weather resistance, which doesn't really mean that much in anything. I'm wearing the Fuji shirt today because I'm actually extremely proud of this lens. First off, let me start by saying that as someone that is used and owns a bazillion lenses, not only do I not suffer from NTS, which is new toy syndrome. You know, someone gets something new, it's like, oh my god, it's so awesome, you gotta get one. I certainly don't suffer that on lenses. So a lot of time when you hear fanboy hype about something new, it's like, well, you really haven't discovered the issues with it yet. I don't suffer that. I've been out shooting with it for most of the day today. Some of the interesting features, which were really awesome, were not mentioned. I'll talk about that in a second. I've got links to a bunch of shots here. They are boring shots. Most of them do need to be cropped, and they do need to be tweaked. But I told you that I would not crop or tweak or touch any new lens pictures, so these are straight out of camera, absolutely 100% untouched, period. Absolutely, period, untouched. Interesting feature. I was actually not planning to be that impressed by this lens. I was expecting it to be basically as good as the 23mm, excuse me, the 35mm f2, its little brother, which came before it. I went back and forth, and it was a pain in the butt, by the way, taking this lens off and sticking the 23 on back and forth. And yes, I asked myself, is this lens faster? The 23mm, what can I quantify it as? Roughly about 10%. Did I take a stopwatch? No, but I did go back and forth, and I spent nearly an hour determining, believe it or not, that yes, the 23mm f2, it's also a wee bit quieter in autofocus tracking than the 35mm f2. Now this was not, didn't come out that long ago, but it is faster. Other people that I actually trust, one of them should be a Fuji shooter. He's actually a famous photographer. Already has this lens in Australia. Hey man, what's up? And I bet you're watching right now. At least he said he'd watch. He reported that it was faster. I didn't know by how much, but I report that the 23mm f2 is roughly 10% faster. One of the awesome features, and oh my god, I love it. Look at this. Look, this is the lens cap, and this is the lens hood. Look, look, oh my god. And yes, there is a filter on there. No, I take these test shots without the filter on. I put it on afterwards. Look at that. You're able to put the lens cap, like my Voigtlander 40mm. Look, I've got the lens cap and the lens hood on. And yes, some people asked me, it is 100% interchangeable with the 35. The 35mm, love you to death, Fuji, but the lens cap that came with this, excuse me, the lens hood that came with the 35mm f2 sucks. I mean, it absolutely is horrible. It's just horrible. I mean, it's actually tough to get off. You know, if I would have thrown it away if I had left it in the box. Anyway, so anybody that owns the 35mm f2, as soon as these lens hoods are available for purchase, I suggest you buy those and stick them on your 35. They are completely interchangeable between the two. So that's really nice. I mean, I can leave the lens hood on there, take the lens cap off, stick it in my pocket. Why? I've only ever said this about one other Fuji lens. I own every Fuji lens except for three of them, three of the ones that I'm not too fond of. Those three lenses are the 18mm. Sorry, Fuji, just, you know, they're for sale everywhere for a reason. The second one is the 23mm f1.4. Not a bad lens. I mean, you say, well, you know, you don't like them. I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, yeah, you're talking about a room full of beautiful women, and you're pointing out, you know, the ugliest chick in the room. So they're all fine, and the 100 to 400mm, which I'm not very fond of for several subjective reasons, but I've tested all of them. And I've only ever said this about the 16mm because obviously it depends on what sort of shooter you are. You can't say, well, you should go buy this gigantic lens. It's like, well, that person may not be a sports photographer. There are a very, very few lenses, very, very few, whether it's Fuji or Nikon or Canon, that you just absolutely have to say, look, you should need to own this lens. I don't care what sort of photographer you are, a street photographer, whatever photographer. Owning this lens is a necessity. And this is the only second Fuji lens that I've said, regardless of what type of photographer you are, that I absolutely downright consider to be a necessity to own. I didn't even say that about the 35mm f2. I certainly said that it's better than the 35mm f1.4. There's no aperture chatter on the 35 f2. It's faster, obviously so, but I still didn't say it was an absolute must-buy. This is an absolute must-buy. What is some empirical reasoning behind that seemingly subjective statement? Well, it's the same reason there is a 35mm permanently attached to my most the Fuji X100T. There is a 23mm f2 on this lens. See, it's 23mm f2, 23mm f2. Yeah, one of the most popular cameras amongst hardcore professional photographers. It has this interesting lens permanently attached to it. 23mm f2, which in field of view, relational to full frame, is a 35mm f2 lens. The most universally useful. If you ask any hardcore professional photographers, like, you can only have one lens and one camera to take to a deserted island with you, what lens would it be? It would be a 35mm equivalent lens, and which that's what this is. On a DX crop sensor like this, the 23mm is basically a 35mm lens, field of view. Every professional photographer, at least 99 out of 100, will mention some 35mm lens of some sort. And for me, for full frame, it'd be like my 35mm Zeiss Distagon. This lens blew me away. That's why I proudly put on the Fuji t-shirt, because I was not really expecting to be impressed by this lens. And like I said, I do not suffer from NTS, what I call new toy syndrome, where someone is really excited about something new and they're a fanboy. It's like, oh my god, it's great, it's new, you gotta have it. No, I don't suffer that. So when I state that this lens is the tits, it's awesome, it's the cat's ass, it's the bee's knees, it's tougher than woodpecker lips, I really do mean that. I'm going to give you the links below to some of these pictures. You can scroll around and look at them. But they are 100%, they are boring. This lens... Oh, I was not really expecting this much out of this lens. Kind of, there's a southern saying, finer than frog fur. It's exquisite. It's sublime, divine. It's all of that in a bag of chips. The sharpness, oh my god, the sharpness. The color set, these are totally straight out of camera. Some of these pictures don't need any editing at all. Some of them do, but I left them, since it is a new lens, I left them totally straight out of camera, totally untouched. I found a fig tree on my wanderings today, and I was eating some figs. There's not much sharp guts on the inside of that, but this lens is insanely sharp. Let me actually scroll over to some other shots. Here we go. Just blown away just by all the shots that I actually took today with this lens. Really, I was rather startled. Oh, another important thing. You see the actual manual focus ring for manual focus override and autofocus. I had to do that a little bit today on some really, really difficult tiny insects I was taking pictures of. Now you see how big it is on the 35. It's a lot larger on the 23mm f2. Very, very nice. Oh, yes. Muy caliente, right? Yeah, I don't speak Spanish, but I stab in the dark at it there. Whereas the Russians would say, this lens is... I was about to use a Russian curse word, which means bleeping awesome, but I will just say, очень хорошо. Абсолютно. Совсем. I was about to say охуительный, but I won't use that Russian word. Oh. Whoops. Really, very, very shocked on this lens. Shocked is kind of an understatement. Like I said, these are all straight out of camera. I'll give the links to a few of them, but I'm not going to post up 23 links. You could just scroll around and download them. They're full resolution, straight out of camera, untouched, unclipped, uncropped, everything. Oh, the color saturation. Oh, the corner to corner. Oh, the lack of vignetting. Oh, the rendering. Oh, my goodness, yes. Super sweet. This lens is 10 elements in 6 groups, 9 bladed rounded aperture. Obviously, it's APS-C. Basically, it's a 35mm equivalent. It is 6.35 ounces. I showed a video comparing it to the 35mm f2, much larger manual focus dial on the 23mm f2 than the 35mm. It is a week quieter than the 35mm f2, which didn't come out that long ago, and it is, I went back and forth, very tedious, very boring. Did confirm that it is roughly 10% faster in autofocus tracking. Made sure of that. Made absolutely sure. It could be a hair more than 10%. I'm sorry I didn't stopwatch it, but I kept going back and forth. It wasn't that hard to go back and forth because I got two Fuji X-T2s. Exactly the same, set up exactly the same. But I also swapped them on the same camera to make sure anyway. I did do that, which was a pain in the butt. This is one of only two Fuji lenses that I can't... Fuji's going to sell a bejesus out of the 23mm f2. They are, because this is the street lens. This is the lens that is just as any 35mm full-frame lens is. I mean, that is the reason why there is a permanent 23mm f2 attached to one of the most hardcore beloved by hardcore professional photographers, hardcore beloved by hardcore professional photogs, the Fuji X100T 23mm f2. 23mm f2. And oh, so much thanks to Fuji for redesigning the horrible lens cap that was on the 35mm f2. This is very nice. I can leave the lens, the lens cap, crap. The lens hood, excuse me, I could leave the lens hood on there all the damn time and then just pop the lens cap. Isn't that awesome? No more removing the lens hood anymore. It just stays on there permanently, and it's perfect for blocking the front element, and it's low profile for blocking the front element. Excellent! Excellent! I love this. Some of the stupid stuff like this that nobody mentions is like, why the hell didn't somebody mention that to me about the new 23mm f2? You know, I've seen the lens hood, but I didn't see it on the damn lens, nor did I see the fact that it's like my Voigtlander 40mm in that, you know, the lens cap attaches to the front of the lens hood, and that's the tits. It's awesome. Which is perfect for street photography too. Perfect. Very smooth thinking on the fact on the part of Fuji in doing that. $450 US dollars. Absolutely silk, sex, and sugar. I mean, really, I was not expecting to be that impressed by this lens, but I was thoroughly, right to the hilt, thoroughly impressed. I was, wow, yeah. Micro contrast, I would consider it to be borderline very good. I give it a good plus to a borderline very good. So for black and white photographers, this is a perfect intertonal rendering. Did high definition, high def black and white conversion. Excelencia. Очень хорошо, as they say in Russian. Flare, I did a bunch of flare tests, no issues, color saturation incredible. All future reviews that I do on lenses are going to be resolution, phase gain, bandwidth, construction, and drive. Now the drive on this lens is a 10 out of 10. It's even a wee faster than the 35. Very, very quiet also. Construction, made in Japan. Oh my god. Hey! Love Japanese metal and made in Japan. Oh my god, how does it get any better? Well, the lens renders exquisitely well. Bandwidth is really good. Give it an 8 out of 10, which is incredibly high. I mean, it's not like it's a 4 element count lens, it's a 10 element count lens. That is a very high rating from me. Resolution, oh damn. Sharp. I mean, it'll cut you to look at the images from this camera. And oh my god, I mean, when you take a look at this one, take a look at that at 100%, why don't you please? Oh yeah. Resolution, phase gain, bandwidth, construction, and drive. This lens is, it's right there. Right there. It's not like hovering over the bullseye or somewhere close to it. It's right in the bullseye. And I was not expecting that. I was not. I made 23mm, you know, it's going to be like a average street one. No. And I should have expected that, because this is the street lens. This is the general purpose lens, because this is the 35mm equivalent. 23mm crop sensor, basically 35mm field of view equivalent for full frame. This is definitely, like I said, I own every Fuji lens. Every one of them. I've tested all of them. I don't own 3 of them that I'm not particularly in love with, but I mean, damn, that's a lot of lamb lenses. Some of which I have multiple copies of. Yeah, I know, it's not too smart, right? I've only said this about 2 lenses, like regardless of what sort of shooter you are. The 16mm, Fuji's best lens. This sits right next to it there. This is literally only one of 2 lenses. It's like, well, that's just your opinion. Yeah, some opinions are worth more than others, okay? I've used a lot of lenses. I own every Fuji lens. I've tested them all extensively. I own all but 3 of them. This is one of only 2 lenses that, regardless of the type of shooter you are, I recommend get it. The price on it is low. The quality is extremely high. It's sharp as a razor blade. It will cut you. It will cut your eyeballs looking at the pictures from this. Anyway, take a look at the links. These are all straight out of camera, untouched. So there's no worry about Lightroom manipulation or Photoshop. It's like, is it real or is it Photoshop? Is it real? Well, straight out of camera, okay? I promised that every new lens review would be exactly like that, and I will hold to that. So, thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can drop me a buck or 2, or a big, fat, sloppy pizza dripping with molten cheese. Whatever makes you happy. You can tell me to jump off a cliff, or take a long walk off of a short pier, or whatever makes you happy, right? So that is a review of the 23mm f2 Fuji lens, made in Japan, made out of metal, made exquisite. Absolutely love the hell out of it. I was not expecting it to be that damn good. I really was not. And like I said, don't suffer from new toy syndrome, especially when it comes to lenses. Usually I'm like, oh, I got another lens oh damn, another lens I gotta review. I'm getting tired of lenses. Usually kind of like that, because I've had way too many lenses pass through my hands. Way too many! But it was a delight to be out today, out and about. Yeah, I know these pictures are boring. They are test examples, so don't pick on me. It's like, well, those pictures are not too exciting. Well, they're test pictures, for God's sakes. Chill out a little bit. Oh my God, the color saturation, the sharpness, the corner to corner. Oh my God, yes. Oh yes. This lens will definitely, as a photographer, someone that appreciates fine quality images, this will definitely make your, as my grandfather used to say, make your sticker peck out. I'll edit that out later. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Okay? Bye!